page 505. And when you speak of the destiny, then you mean that which befalls you through your own efforts, both in the fortune and unfortune, in the good and evil, although you presume to push off everything onto a god, tin god, human being, or a karma. And you do this only so that you yourselves do not have to bear the responsibility. You also do not make thoughts about what the destiny actually means so that you could understand that the destiny is the outcoming effects of your own energies and powers, of your thoughts and feelings, or the effects which proceed onto you through distinct causes of other human beings, through nature, or through happenings and situations, as well as through the universal connections. So therefore the law of cause and effect has its outcoming effect, in which the law of the interaction also takes effect. The two laws of cause and effect and interaction have been given in the creation since the primal beginning. Therefore the big and enduring and indissoluble becoming and passing is connected therewith through the principles of the creation. What becomes will also pass again, and in this process the becoming is the cause and the passing the effect, whilst on the one hand, with regard to the interaction, a changeability, i.e., a change between this world and the other world, comes about. On the other hand, the interaction is given in your current material life in such a wise that through your thoughts, feelings, actions, deeds, and through all your activity, corresponding reactions, consequences, and effects arise. The law of the interaction, as well as the law of cause and effect, and the law of becoming and passing, animate the immense creational system of the universe, hold it together in constant motion in the process of the 311 trillion 40 billion years of the enduring existence of the creation, during which there is a constant becoming and passing, and again a new becoming. And just as the law of the interaction functions in the large, so it also efficacious in you human beings of earth, namely according to the principle, what you sow through your thoughts, feelings, actions, and deeds, as well as through all your activity, you will also reap. This is truly the activity and life in the entire creation, as it is untouchably and unmovably woven into the creational laws and recommendations in an ongoing, outcoming effect. And these laws and recommendations, in their all-embracing immenseness, include everything conceivable and unconceivable for you, and regulate even the tiniest speck of dust of a weight. If you are heedful, vigilant, and attentive, then you can experience everything in yourselves, if you only want to. Therefore begin by the observing and perceiving of yourselves, but also by the environment that is visible for you. Consider, what you call the laws of the nature are the laws of the creation, as they are given through its laws, in which are also included the recommendations, and which are given to you as counsels for the fulfillment of the laws. Because just as the laws include uncontrovertible distinctnesses with regard to their effects, so the recommendations are based on counsels, which are to be used to follow the laws and to fulfill them in their evolutive and life-affirming effects. And the creational laws are not laid out for punishment, but rather in such a wise that the following or not following of them brings distinct positive or negative, i.e., good or bad effects, which you determine yourselves willingly in logic through your thoughts and feelings, all your activity and your deeds, and through your actions. Therefore, you yourselves bring about what is rightful and what is unrightful, and what you consciously create therewith that is good, or suggestively and forcefully bring about that is evil. The creational laws and recommendations are constantly in permanent action, and consequently, they act timelessly and bring whatever you voluntarily, self-willedly, and willingly create in the evil or good. And consider, the only effects resulting from these laws are that which you create yourselves, because it goes according to the principle that if good is sown, good can be reaped again. But if a weed is sown, only a weed can arise out of it. Fundamentally, it is such with you human beings of earth, that you neither think about these things of the truth nor about yourselves. And as you do not think about the law-based happenings of the nature, nor about the laws and recommendations of the creation, you never waste a thought on what, who, and how you are. In consequence, these three questions also remain strange to you. Quote, what is the human being? Quote, who is the human being? Quote, how is the human being? What is the human being? Fundamentally, the human being is individually a Wesen which has come out of an idea of the creation and through its laws, as a consciously self-thinking Wesen with an evolution-capable consciousness, as well as with an own free will and own free decision-making power for the purpose of the consciousness evolution, which is the sense of the life. In this regard, it is also important, as a human Wesen, to create in oneself the true being human and the real humaneness, in order to be human in the real and true sense, which is expressed through fundamentally learning and following the creational laws and recommendations, wherethrough the fulfillment of the human being and the humaneness occurs. In this sense, the whole thing means that the creation-given duties of the laws and recommendations are followed and fulfilled in the best possible framework, that also true love, as well as inner harmony, freedom, and peace are created in an equalized wise, and are also carried to the outside, and that all factors of what is evil, unfair, irresponsible, and unrighteous are fundamentally avoided. Who is the human being? Fundamentally, the human being is primarily an individuum, a single individual nature with a consciousness block which forms the individuum, and in which also the mental block is integrated, that is, the consciousness, the thoughts, feelings, and the psyche. What else is given in the consciousness block is the character, the personality, the subconsciousness, the ego, and the memory, out of which altogether the who of the human being results, thus who he or she is through all the capabilities and factors of his or her consciousness block. The human being is in itself, through the consciousness block, and as a material individuum, an undivisible, a whole, just as he or she is an undivisible, a whole, together with the spirit, i.e., spirit form, that animates him or her, and that says, as soon as the life extinguishes, and thus the spirit form escapes out of the body and into its realm of the other world, the consciousness block also escapes from the body and goes into the realm of the other world that is belonging to it. Thus, the primary individuum, i.e., the consciousness block, dissolves, because as such it can only exist as long as the body actually lives and is inhabited by the spirit form. So, when the life extinguishes, then only the lifeless, empty material shell without consciousness block, i.e., individuum, remains. Although the human being, as a material Wesen, with a consciousness block is in himself or herself an undivisible whole, the human being is, however, not like that towards the outside, because he or she jointly lives and coexists secondarily through partaking of and participation in other things. So, for example, as a human being of his or her times, as a carrier of world historical ideas, as a child of the parents, as a husband and father, as a friend, employer, or employee, etc. Through this, he or she proves to himself or herself, and to the outside world, who he or she is, by showing the factors and capabilities of his or her consciousness block, i.e., his or her individuum in the outer world. How is the human being? Fundamentally, the human being is what he or she is in the core of his or her inner nature, i.e., what corresponds to his or her individuality, that is based on the core of his or her inner nature, which, however, as a rule, strongly deviates from the individuality which he or she shows to the outside world. The core of the human individuality, i.e., the core of the human inner nature, is of creational nature, which strivingly pushes towards an evolution of the inner nature occurring through a consciousness evolution. But as a rule, the creation-given striving and natural instinct is ignored, and consequently, the human being creates in himself or herself an own and outer kind of the inner nature, i.e., individuality, which, so as to say, the chaff of the inner nature surrounds its core. For this reason, he or she cannot really be how he or she is at the bottom of his or her inner nature, i.e., his or her creational individuality, because he or she decides himself or herself, and at his or her own free choosing and will, how he or she wants to be, in which case he or she expresses this how to be through his or her self-created outer individuality. Truly, you human beings of Earth, you do not think about these things at all, or not in great detail, but instead you let your immensely erring philosophies think for you, who do not recognize the truth of the things, but make themselves mere imaginations, without comprehending the reality. And because you, like them, do not attempt to fathom the real truth of the things, you will thus also not become conscious of the great laws of the creational might which pulsate therein. It is an implicitness for you not to think about the actual things of the truth, and hence also not about the creational laws and recommendations and their effects. As a result, you are faced with mysteries which need not be mysteries for you. Consider, all laws and recommendations of the creation have an effect on all things with absolute certainty and strength, not only on everything down to the coarsest and greatest, and up to the finest and most tender, but also in all realms of the fine fluidalness and high fine fluidalness. Even in each single happening, and in all motions, in all expanses of the universe, as well as in all levels of the substantial, semi-substantial, the fine fluidal and high fine fluidal, and the pure spiritual, the creational laws and recommendations act in an absolutely unchangeable wise. So therefore also, in the most tender developments of your thoughts and feelings, which must be assigned to the semi-substantialness. Do not assume, then, that elsewhere in the uncomprehensible expanses of the universe it would be different than on your earth, or amongst and in yourselves, because in the whole being that is both visible and invisible for you, everything is given equally. Thus every species brings forth its species, and every kind its kind, irrespective of what the form is made out of, be it material life forms or thoughts and feelings. The process of fertilization, germination, growing, and becoming is continuous, and it goes through everything equally and does not differentiate, so also no gap comes up. And the process does not stop in front of any part of the creation, because the effects of the timeless process carry themselves through everything, like an unterrible band which cannot be broken off nor taken off. Even if you human beings of Earth, for the most part, isolate yourselves from the recognizing and understanding of the universal processes through your intellect and rationality-based restriction, and through your deceptive imagination and imperiousness, the laws of the nature, and hence also the entire creational laws and recommendations, do not cease to exist, because despite your negation, they continue to act in an unchangeable, calm, and constant, kind and wise, and determine through their interaction the destiny of the universe, and of all that which is included therein, so therefore also your outer destiny, upon which you have no influence.